Welcome back to Get Your Voice Out There. I'm Roberta Chadis, and today we're really going to get our voices out there. I have a very, very special guest who is a confidence coach. She is a speaker and an author. This is Dr. Stem Mahlatini. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again, Roberta.
And I want to introduce Dr. Stem because if you ask people that you know, or anyone that you talk to, both men and women, and you ask them if they're ambitious, usually they say absolutely yes. And then fear sets in, and self-confidence is a problem.
Yes.
But I want to stress that STEM's goal is to motivate, to inspire, and to uplift others so that they can accomplish what they want to do in their lives. So I'd love for you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about self-confidence. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Great.
As Roberta says, my name is Dr. Stem Mahlatini, and STEM is short for Selfbelief, Mahlatini, which means hope. I'm originally from Zimbabwe, and I've been here in the country for 33 years. And the reason why I have given my life and dedication to helping people build their confidence or boosting their confidence is because I think the difference between those that are successful and those who are ambitious but are not there yet is confidence. That's what bridges that gap. As well as teenagers, some will be successful, some will not do as well, and people are now starting to say these teenagers are so bad, they don't listen, they don't respect people. But I think self-esteem, which equates to confidence, is again the problem there. That's why my mission is to work with confidence, self-esteem, mostly. I have a private practice. I'm a psychotherapist. I have a private practice where I see people for counseling, mental health counseling, and I also coach them for career coaching, and mostly I speak to teenagers and their parents in my practice.
And this is so important. Yeah. I know when we first met, I got these two books, and this one is the 47 and a half things. 47 and a half things, I'll repeat that, that teens need to deal with their parents. And we have the same thing with how parents would want to deal with their teens.
Yes.
And reading through them, it was like a short novel on exactly what you need to do for your entire life. Yes. Yes. And which one of those 47 and a half things are your favorites?
Well, I'm surprised you didn't ask why 47 and a half, which is why everybody asks. So I'll start with that one.
Okay.
I was 47 and a half years old when I wrote that book, which is, 3-4 years ago. But, at that point, I decided to just name it 47 and a half because that's where my age was. I wrote those books, verbatim as if I'm conversing with a parent who says, what can I do with my teenagers? And I wrote everything that they might face and have questions so that if they don't have time to come and see a therapist or a life coach or a career coach, they can just pick up that book and look to see on page 24, we talk about talking back. This kid talks back to me all the time and doesn't listen. What do I do? And, I literally just write how you can best respond to that. I also wrote 47 and a half things for the teenagers because they have no heart, no idea how their parents' heart, is for them and wants them to do well. So they always, I think, misinterpret the messages of the parents, like you against me and you don't want me to be who I want to be, and yet they mean well, most of the time. So I wanted to write that down for them as well.
It's interesting. Now, my memory of being a teenager is I knew everything.
That's it.
And why would my parents even know better than me? Is that something that's happening now as well?
I think they come out with, I know everything, but then I think what the parents don't mostly understand is things are different now. Things are literally different. I know when we grew up, we said, Ma, things are different, and they say the same thing to their parents. But literally things are different. Technology has taken over, cyber bullying and, the influence that they have from, the other teenagers to make choices, are so much more than what we used to have, that they need more parental support and safety net to be able to say and talk about those things that, so-and-so is telling me to do, to just hang out with them, but they're smoking these pipes and smoking weed, and I don't know what to do, because then, you know what? Some people will say, well, there's nothing wrong with my kid smoking, and some people will say, well, I don't want my kid smoking.
Right.
And these kids are caught in between. Is it good? Is it bad? So I think, times are different, and these kids need more support, more education. Parents also need more support, more education on what it is that these kids are facing and how hard it is for them to do, helicopter parenting. I'm at work, but, I'll call the school. The therapist can talk to my kid. It's not going to happen. They need to be involved in the lives of these teenagers. Yeah.
And how do you manage to deal with enough people to get this message across?
I have come up with a great idea. I'm a motivational speaker. So what I do is I go out to conferences and speak at conferences about raising teenagers, and also I talk to teenagers about survival in this world that is constantly changing and facing so many choices that they have. Which one do I choose? I also help, the teenagers choose careers, because then tuition is very expensive.
Yes.
I mean, I owe over $300,000 because I went all the way to, my PhD. So in order to have that kind of bill without a plan of how you're going to pay for it and work and use that degree to work for you, I own my own business, so it works for me because I can generate my own profits. I don't have to wait for a paycheck in order to pay off these loans. But when they don't have that capacity to think outside the box, they're just going for a degree, and then after the degree, they come and sit on my couch and say, look, I have a degree in English, but I can't find a job. What job do you want to do? I don't know. But now they have a bachelor's degree, and they have $200,000 in debt. So it's better now to plan succinctly what they're going to do, so that they have a plan for after college, what they're going to do with that degree, rather than just go and get a 4-year degree, to that. So that's my plan. Instead of waiting to serve one-on-one, I can serve 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people and, speak to them. I also write books, as you know. I have 24 books now that I have authored, and they're all on Amazon.com, covering different topics, that one might face in life. The other thing that I do, I also have a television show. It's called the Dr. STEM Show. And in there, I bring in experts, people like yourself, who were teenagers before and were able to overcome those years of I know it all, and how did you do it? Those are some of the things that we talk about on my show, so that these kids have a barrage of resources that they can tap into and look at and read, and get that information.
It's so important. I know. I met you when you were just starting your
off,
show
yes,
here.
yes.
And I knew you were an important person to know. I knew it because of just the way you hold yourself. And I think that is honestly what young people need as an example.
Yes.
Because sometimes their environment does not give them what you can give them.
You're right.
And let's talk a little bit about self-confidence and how important that is for kids.
You see, I believe that we all have a light within us that is meant to shine throughout our lives. And if that light is not ignited somehow in the home, in the school, one gets to be an adult and they will still be wondering, what am I here for? Right. Who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? So confidence is what allows you to believe in yourself, to strive to know who you truly are without the influence of outside influences telling you who you are. You get to say, you know what, I have a stutter, but I have a brain, and I can use that brain either in technology, or I can speak until people cannot hear the stutter anymore, and they can hear what I'm saying because I have a voice. There are people that, can use their hands, and parents say, I don't want you to be, fixing cars, but that's their passion. That's what they want. So if you don't have that confidence to say confidently, you know what, I will do this because this is what I love doing, and I know you love me, but I gotta go with my heart, and this is what I want to do with my life at that high school level, and not, say it as an insult to the parent, but to say it as a person that's saying, you know what, I have to fly my own, journey, and I have to experience this own journey by myself. So I think most of my work is done with parents, because they are the adults. They are the ones that say, I pay your rent, I pay, for your tuition, I pay for this, and you're going to do this. And then they get, clash, because then that's not what the kid wants to do.
They do, and I'm going to refer to the belief systems.
Yes.
Because those belief systems of maybe I'm not smart enough,
Yeah.
I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not handsome enough, I'm not tall enough, all of these things that are either observed in a way that makes them negative. How can parents and teens really work on that?
And that's why I was, referring to that self-belief, that confidence allows you to say, I'm short and I'm okay, and I'm confident and I know who I am, and it's okay to be me. People say, well, you know what, I can't find dates because I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too fat. I believe that this life, it was created for all of us to fit in one way or the other. So if I'm short and I'm fat, there's something about me that is so unique and different, besides my being fat or my being ugly as other people see me, that is important for me to understand, to acknowledge, and to say I'm okay, and I'm going out in the world and showing the world who I truly am. And that's what, so what I've noticed is I've done this, I've been doing this for 22 years now, where I'm working with teenagers and parents and women especially, because they are the primary influence of these children in the family. So I work with them as well to build their confidence. For the 22 years that I've been doing it, I think the ones that have come across my, office, or I have spoken to them at a conference or anything, it was that statement that says you have to love yourself first and really, really be your number one cheerleader when you go out in the world, because people are going to say different things about you. They're going to put you down. You're going to compare yourself with other people, and you truly have to come back to who you really are and what it is that you want to do, in this lifetime. There's one life. So if you don't get to, enjoy it and create it the way that you want, I mean, there's nobody else that can do it, for you. So circumstances, the way that parents, raise you, they're doing the best that they can. It doesn't mean that, that's the right way. So you'll find as you grow up now that I have certain beliefs that I was raised in Zimbabwe, in Africa, that my parents thought, and I wrote them in my memoir, Beyond the Tears, where, they raised me the best way that they can, but now I'm challenging them and thinking, why am I not doing this? And I'm not, because I was told, as a firstborn, as a girl, these are certain things that you have to do. You can't be too confident. You can't be, too cocky. You cannot go into business and do your own business because you are supposed to be a wife and, raise children in the home. And then you come here, you get so educated and you want everything. You want to be a wife, good wife, but you want to be a support. You also want to be confident enough to have your own business and to be successful, So those things, those beliefs, you constantly have to question and, change, tweak as you see fit to your own life. That's your answer.
And in your work with the teens,
yes,
have you seen any particular common denominators of areas that are of big concern at this point?
I'm not good enough, and I use mirror work where I'll have someone look in the mirror, boys and girls, and look in the mirror and say, just describe yourself, tell me who I am. And the first thing they say is, I'm not good enough. I'm ugly. oh, I don't like this, I don't like this. And once I hear that, I know it's going to go on and on and on, which is that self-esteem, self-worth. And when, when you begin to talk to them about their families, and, nobody ever talks about, you know what, I'm actually very intelligent. I'm actually very good at this, which enhances their own self-confidence and, understanding that I actually can be good at this and can be successful in life. So when they don't have anyone in the family that actually has been successful to, the point that they can say, you know what, I can be a doctor like my uncle so-and-so, like my aunt so-and-so, or I can be a lawyer, or I actually am good enough no matter, I was raised in the ghetto, but I can be a good lawyer and actually, can help people around the world, being a lawyer. Without that belief that I can do it and I can do anything that I put my mind to, it's going to be difficult.
That whole concept of being able to do something, and I know even this show, I never thought I was going to have a cable TV show, and it just took a little bit of practice.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that sometimes just stepping into the water or getting some help from someone who shows you that.
Yeah, and it starts with a dream as well.
Yeah.
We don't talk more, about what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do with your life? We don't talk about that anymore. I remember when I was growing up being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was in Africa, I was in Zimbabwe, so I wanted to be a doctor. And at some point, I wanted to be a lawyer, and my dad says, no, you're too sensitive sometimes, which now I look at him, I'm like, am I really sensitive, Dad? He's like, I don't know what happened to you. Because now you're not sensitive anymore, but I used to be, I used to cry a lot, easily. And he said, no, I don't think you will do well being, a lawyer. But then I pursued being a doctor. What I didn't specify was kind of, what kind of a doctor I wanted to be. So I ended up with a doctorate, in education, and, and still became a doctor. But then I had to go beyond just, oh, I want to be a doctor. It's almost like, oh, I want to play basketball. And then what? So I had to go beyond that and say, okay, get the doctorate. What else do I want to do beyond that? I want to have a business that is so successful. And at first I wanted to be a millionaire. I'm like, no, $1 million is easy to attain. I don't want to be a millionaire. Multimillionaire, no. What about the trillionaire? Because now multimillionaires are there, billionaires are there, so I want to go beyond that. And why? Because I have a heart that, to help others. I just can't go in and talk to somebody and incite them, encourage them, motivate them to do more and become more, and they don't have the finances to go through that. So what if I have a scholarship fund that I can incite, the students to say, hey, you do well, you can get a scholarship, and I will pay for your 4 years in college. You don't have to have $300,000. So that's my dream, and that's where I'm going. I just don't want to be all talk. I want to be able to help financially.
I agree. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about this book and some of the challenges that you had before you even got to where you are now.
I think, with that book, I wrote this book, and I'll just hold it up for your audience, a little bit without, probably the light. But when I wrote this book, I was stuck, in my life at that point. And it was a time where I had to reflect on where I'm coming from, where my parents, are, and how difficult it was to raise 7 children and bring them, here in the United States. Really? And, I wanted to get that strength to say, okay, I want to start my own business, but I was afraid I'm a foreigner in this country. Where do I start? How do I even start to open up? So my accent, even in my accent, which today I'm very proud to have this accent, I didn't speak much because I was afraid that people didn't like my accent. So because people would say, could you repeat that? What did you say? And that was scary for me. I, grew up in Zimbabwe with both parents. And in that book, I talk about polygamy, where men are allowed to have multiple wives and how that affects the children. because then, you have another wife coming in and your mother is hurt and her self-esteem is down, because we're talking about confidence. So now she's not able to uplift you and to encourage you to the point where you can literally stand there and say, it's good to be a married woman. It's good to be a successful woman. It's good to be a good person, because everything that she has built in her life and put, out to be with this one husband is shattered. And now she doesn't know, what was wrong. Am I good enough? Am I bad enough? So you look at her, you hear her, and then it affects me as a girl with 5 sisters and 2 brothers that, are we good enough? Is it enough? Should we work this hard to be married? And then it all shatters in front of us. So all those things I write in there, and how I was able to write them down, look at them, acknowledge that, this is what it is, but I have to be in charge of my own life, and I have to start over from where I am now as an adult and to take charge of how my life will come out. So there's a follow-up book to that. It says Thriving Beyond the Tears, because you have to go over that. You have to build from how you were raised and come up with new ways of, living your life the best way that you want to live that life. It's all up to you.
Dr. Stem, you are setting such a great example, because a lot of people may understand all these concepts, but they're not really bringing the awareness out.
Yeah.
And I know I want to talk about your newest project, which is something called Unstoppable, which I think is a pretty good word to describe to who you are, is unstoppable.
Yes. My new book, it's coming up. It's now being edited right now. I wrote that book, I started writing it last year, and my goal was to release it January of 2016. I couldn't do that for some reason, because at that point I felt like I'm writing about unstoppable, living a free and fearless life, and I wasn't living it. I still had some fears. I still was not where I wanted to be. So now I'm ready to release it. I am moving from Boston, Massachusetts. In 3 weeks, I'll be leaving to go to Orlando, Florida. That's where my heart is. That's, I love the sun. And I know that, with the path that I'm going, I've opened my business, Global Coaching, in Florida. So I'll be doing seminars and, workshops and trainings on, confidence and stress management. I want to focus on those two, because a lot of stress will prevent you from being confident enough or from doing the things that you want to do. So the new book is called Unstoppable, Living a Free and Fearless Life. Because with those two, freedom and fearlessness, nothing can stop you. You're unstoppable.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And in that book, I put down some notes here about some tips. The whole concept of being confident. So being confident is a lot of things, and one of them is just the way you are, your body, your posture, and how you speak. So talk about how you think that really helps people move forward.
And you know what, let me let everybody know that in order for the postures and the way you speak and the way you stand, Toastmasters did it for me. So there's a little work that you have to do. You just can't, because I can talk now because I've gone through it, but there are certain things that you also have to do to build that confidence.
It really does
I attended Toastmasters, and in Toastmasters, we're very loving people, which are in every Toastmaster that you go to, that will help you and give you feedback to help you to improve the way you speak, the way you stand, and in turn, that builds your confidence, because then, the more speeches that you give and also give feedback to others, you start to see those things in yourself and you build yourself. So that's important.
It is good. And the one thing I really love about Toastmasters is it's a safe environment.
Yes.
And people really, you can see them relax.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to be able to just get that out. Oh, that speech I gave, is that really boring, or was it done well? And in order to practice in front of people who are really going to help you, it's so important.
And aren't you doing one for the children, the Toastmasters?
Yes. I teach public speaking for kids.
There you go.
Yes, I do, because I think it's very important to start young. That way, you don't have to spend your entire life feeling afraid of speaking, whether it be one-to-one or in your family or out in public.
You're right. So as the kids say, I want to give a shout out to my coach, Dave Cohen.
Yes, I know Dave.
He was my coach and is still my coach. But in Toastmasters, as soon as I walked through the door, he embraced me and said, "Kiddo, I think I will take you under my wings. I'm going to be your coach." And he has done well. He has done well for me. Yes.
And speaking of our audience and wanting to do well, I think they might want to know how to reach you if you want to give them your contact information.
Okay.
What do you think?
So in order to get in touch with me, you can go to my website, www.drstemspeaks.com. You can email me at drstem14@gmail.com. I also have a podcast that you can download for free on your phones, and I'll be talking a lot about confidence. It's called Dr. STEM Be Encouraged, and that's all in one word. Dr. STEM Be Encouraged. It's a free podcast that you can now get on your phone. I'm also on radio every Sunday. I do gospel music where I motivate, encourage people on radio. It's on www.visionsfm.com. That's also one word. And on YouTube, as I said, I have the TV show, which is Dr. STEM Show. And I'll be interviewing different people that will help you get your confidence up, boost your confidence, as I say it. So if you know somebody who wants to be on that show, you also can email me at drstem14@gmail.com.
You are amazing. When do you sleep, Dr. STEM?
I do. It's called motivation. When you're so motivated, 24 hours is all yours, and you don't have time, to, waste it. So I plan it well. I exercise 5 days a week. I sleep. I date. I have fun.
I bet you do. I bet you do. Just to wrap up our show here about self-confidence, I think the point that really hit home for me is to embrace yourself and also to really accept who you are.
Yes.
And a lot of people are always looking for something else. They're looking for a better version of themselves when all they really have to do is
embrace themselves.
Embrace themselves.
I have one one sentence that I just wrote out this morning that I wanted to share with the audience. And my belief is that your life will go exactly as it is written in the big book, as it's supposed to be. So it's up to you to listen to that inner voice and intuition that always tells you what to do and what not to do. And that's confidence.
That is confidence. So what a treat to have you on this show today. And I feel a lot more motivated to just go out there and be unstoppable.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to reading that book from face to cover. And I want to thank you once again, Dr. STEM, really, for being on the show. I wish you good luck.
Thank you for having me.
I'll be watching you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. And this is Roberta Chadis. It's been my pleasure to have you on Get Your Voice Out There. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be seeing you soon.